Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview, where we take a look at the stories being followed in the current edition of the North Coast Journal. I'm your host, Dave Frank, and I'm joined this week by Jennifer Fumiko Cahill, Arts and Features Editor, and Linda Stansbury, staff writer at the North Coast Journal. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Dave.
Welcome back, Linda. It's good to see you again.
Good to
We appreciate you joining us here.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Why don't we just dive right in, Linda? It looks like there's a really interesting cover story. Why don't you tell us what's on the cover of this week's North Coast Journal?
Right. So this week we have a long and pretty grim cover story. So trigger warning for all of my readers. So for the past 5 to 6 years, off and on, I've been investigating our local skilled nursing facilities in Humboldt County. Skilled nursing facilities are where folks go if they have a medical emergency and are released from the hospital and they need some sort of physical rehabilitation. And in some cases, people end up there if they cannot stay in their own homes and need round-the-clock care, such as catheterization, oxygen, if they have mobility issues and can't turn themselves. So basically they need round-the-clock medical care. These are some of the most medically fragile members of our community. And what we have found are two things. So first of all, I reviewed the reports from the California Department of Health from their investigations and visits to those facilities in 2022. These were some of the first visits since the beginning of the pandemic. Because of infection protocol, many facilities were shut down to all visitors, including state investigators. There was a really heartbreaking pattern of patient care suffering due to understaffing, as reported by staff members to state investigators. There were reports of patients going for weeks and months without being bathed or receiving showers. Reports of improper catheterization protocols, so there were bladder infections, patients developing pressure sores because they weren't turned as often as they should. And all of this is in black and white in those state reports, as well as some information about improper or inadequate infection control in one facility that led to an outbreak of COVID-19 through almost the entire resident population. So that's one part of the story. The other part is about the business practices of these facilities or of their owner. They're owned and operated through a company called Brius Healthcare, which is owned by a person named Shlomo Rechnitz. He is a Los Angeles-based businessman. He owns about 80 skilled nursing facilities throughout the state. So in 2016, what I discovered was that the owner of these facilities had set up a number of what are called related parties. So these are different LLCs and other companies that essentially do business with his skilled nursing facilities and take money, from Medi-Cal, to a lesser extent Medicare, private pay, and pay themselves. So Mr. Rechnitz owns a medical supply company. He buys all of his own medical supplies. He owns the buildings in which these facilities are housed outright, has no mortgage. He set up a third-party lease company, and he pays himself $1 million in rent every year. So altogether, what I uncovered is over the last 5 years, this owner has paid himself or paid his companies through related party transactions $31.5 million
Wow.
through these different companies. And in the meantime, all of these facilities are, again, severely understaffed. The main reason that they are understaffed is, the rate of pay. So it's extremely troubling, I guess, in summary.
Yeah, this is really tragic. I don't know which is worse. On the cover, it says profit and pain. This is both both sides of this coin are very devastating. I guess so thank you. First of all, thank you so much for uncovering this and making it clear that this is documented, like you said, black and white. The pain portion of this is black and white. Our own state government oversight reports say so, but also it's you did the research to figure out the profit side. So, I mean, I guess because the article starts with profit, let's start there real quickly. I know there's so much in there, and I highly recommend that everybody check it out for themselves. But on the profit side, you mentioned that there's a significant portion of the revenue stream that this owner diverts to his own companies. I mean, I hate to make this associate. Well, I won't even make the association. I'll let people learn for themselves. But it's terrible. It's terrible to do this to skim, quote unquote, on care. Because this is how you set up your organization to fail. Can you tell us a little bit about a bill that Assemblymember Wood proposed, how that may have helped a situation like this, some oversight or accountability, and then kind of why that it has not become the law already?
Right. So this sparked my initial interest in the story all the way back in April, and a lot of thanks to my editors at the Journal for their patience on how long it took for me to actually finish this. But yes, at that time, there was a bill going through the state legislature authored by Woods, AB 2079. And this bill would have mandated that 85% of revenue generated from Medi-Cal would go towards patient care. And the language of the bill was pretty clearly aimed at these related party expenses, or the practice of related party expenses. Unfortunately, Governor Newsom in September declined to sign the bill into law. He said that it would conflict with some other quality of care measures that have been put in place in California skilled nursing facilities. So those quality of care metrics, basically how they are set up is if a facility meets a certain standard of care, a certain measurement of care, then they get more money than they would have. And so Newsom's statement was that would be adequate to ensure quality of care. What some critics are saying, including the California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform, is that these companies will just continue to kind of game the system by submitting data that they can control, and that these quality of care metrics will give them a raise instead of having wholesale reform.
Gotcha. So it may not have been the best solution to what appears to be on the surface a relatively straightforward problem. It's a little bit more complicated than that. So thank you for that. So, I mean, I know there's, like I said, there's an awful lot there, but one last question on that piece of it. The part of the issue that you said was that there's there's potentially alternative solutions here. Did any of your experience with during your investigation lead you to see any hope or window pathway towards because this gentleman who owns this company, that's all the skilled nursing facilities we have in our community. So I'm thinking of what if you've got loved ones there or loved ones who may be there, what are the prospects for an improvement on the amount of care that we see, because the impacts are pretty devastating.
They are. Many people who end up in these facilities don't have loved ones that can care for them, or they don't have family members who can advocate for them. What I have learned from my own experience, having a family member in the medical system and briefly in a skilled nursing facility out of the county, but still, is that it is very important to have someone to advocate for you as you go through the medical system, especially for folks who are older, who are impaired or need end-of-life care. They really rely on a family member or an advocate to keep track of all the information and just keep an eye on what's going on. During the COVID-19 lockdown, that piece of the puzzle or that piece of the system of care was really restricted because family members weren't allowed into the buildings. And according to California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform, that caused a lot of, that caused an acceleration of a lot of suffering. So I would say family members get involved, community members check out the Area 1 Agency on Aging Ombudsman program. They're always looking for volunteers. So these are people who go into the facilities and they advocate for people who do not have family members or other people to advocate for them. And then finally, I have seen the need for a more holistic system of care for people who need skilled nursing and people who need end-of-life care in our community and, you know, in our societies in general. So I would say that it is important to have alternatives to our current system. And I know that we have a lot of smart and creative people in our community who can make that happen.
That's the hope. Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear that. It sounds to me like really what you're saying is transparency is the best disinfectant here. I hate to use that cliche, but we've got tragic results in the family, you know, residents, citizens, family members in our community here. And so far we just have visibility. But it sounds like you're saying that really the volunteerism and family participation in their own loved ones' lives, that's really how we get to the bottom of drawing attention, maintaining attention, highlighting. What are the repercussions? Like let's pivot to the second half of your story, which is the pain part. It's really just, these are just, again, I hate to just use this word, but it's so tragic to hear that this is what's happening to these people. What level, you may have alluded to it earlier, but if there are findings of this nature, what happens with these findings? How is accountability implemented on the ground?
Well, when the California Department of Public Health comes into a facility and they substantiate what are called deficiencies or issues with care not meeting state or federal guidelines for quality of care, the facility is, in some cases, they have a monetary repercussion for that. But the real repercussion, the most standard repercussion, is they have to create a plan of action for addressing those deficiencies. So the state will come, it's kind of like a teacher letting you take a test over again, oh, hey, you got a C, you got, questions 5, 8, 9, and 11 wrong. So here it is, fix those problems, and then we can bump you up to a B+, right? It's not the best analogy, but that's, basically what it is.
Understood.
For the monetary fines, according to many advocates I've spoken to, these fines are so nominal that they're essentially written into the budget for companies that own these facilities. So they don't seem to be stringent enough to make an impact. In rare cases, the state or the federal government will decertify facilities. So they'll say, this is outrageous. You shouldn't be running this facility. We're going to shut you down. That is ostensibly a strong way to handle this kind of thing. However, in many cases, the owner operator is one company that has like a level of other companies above it, which is what we see with Brius and this owner. And so that company gets dinged, well, they'll just shift ownership to a different company. And in many cases, as we've seen, facilities will get shut down and the residents of these facilities will get put on a bus in the middle of the night and just shipped somewhere else in the state if they don't have someone to advocate for them. I spoke to one man in Seaview. He had been in a facility down in Sonoma County that got shut down, and that's what happened. They put him on a bus. He didn't know where he was going. He ended up all the way up here in Humboldt County.
Linda, well, thank you so much. We'll continue to follow this as you continue to follow it. This is really eye-opening, and what a call for action. Oh, my goodness. Thank you big time. We appreciate you, and we'll connect with you again sometime soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Hey, Jen, how about you? What is going on the Arts and Features beat this week?
This week, I went down to the St. Vincent de Paul dining facility, which is right over here in Eureka near the co-op. There's a big blue building if you haven't been by. And I got to speak with some of the folks who run it. And it was pretty fascinating and amazing, and almost restored my faith in humanity. But listen, I'm a journalist. So one of the people that I met there, and the person who seems to be, although I should start out by saying that all the people who volunteer and staff the dining facility are pretty amazing, and they all have their stories, and I could go back there every week, truly. But the person who is running the facility, Mary Lee Price, is amazing. She is 59 years old. She's been there for 20 years. She started out working there as in part of she called it a welfare to work program, and then got on full time and has been, I say running the kitchen because she is, as other people put it, the glue that holds everybody together. But at the same time, she does everything. Everyone that works there does everything. That means that you are cooking, you are chopping garlic, you are wiping down tables, you are doing janitorial stuff, you are cutting open boxes, et cetera, et cetera. Donations come in from all over the place. Local stores like Eureka Natural Foods and other places donate foods that maybe they can't sell, but that are still good to eat. Leftovers, excess of things. Their two biggest donors are Winco and Costco. And when I went in on Monday morning, there were a couple of women who were volunteering. One of them, Jackie Owsley, who has been there for 16 years, and she comes in twice a week. They are packing up things like muffins and bagels and stuff like that. And some of them go onto trays at lunchtime. And then some of them go onto a pantry shelf so that people can, after they eat, take a bag of bagels with them or something, which can be life-saving for themselves, for other people they know who couldn't come, etc. It's a big deal to be able to help yourself to food. The dining facility is open Monday to Friday for 2 hours a day. And in that 2 hours, and 2 Saturdays of the month. But in that 2 hours, they serve about 200 people, 250 toward the end of the month when money runs out. Not all of them are homeless. The free hot meal, which there are a couple of things that amazed me about this, but a lot of people are, for example, working in the fisheries and taking a break, coming in, having a hot meal, and going back to work. When I was talking to Mary Price about how she got to work for St. Vincent, she was talking about, some people are, of course, homeless. Some people have, they're working even full time. They can pay their bills, but they don't have enough to eat. Or, this is a way for them to get by check to check. Other people, you hit a rough patch. Sometimes you're traveling through. There are a lot of reasons that people come in themselves, with their kids, with their families. They might be taking care of other people in their family and had to stop working. There are a million different stories for why you end up there. And she has her own. She recalled coming there with her kids. She raised 3 kids in the city of Eureka, and she had hard times. And she said to me at one point that, she felt good about Eureka because when she needed it, there was help available to her. She was able to go to St. Vincent. She always knew that she could go and get a meal there. She could feed her kids if she needed to. And likewise, she at one point lost her apartment. She was renting from somewhere. She had gotten housing. She was all set. The paperwork was going through, and then her landlord passed away. And the family took over the property. What can you do? So she ended up having to find a place, and she was able to stay with friends. She had her family with her, and they had to sort of scatter in order to find housing. But she said to me a couple of times, people don't realize how easy it is to become homeless. And I get that. People look around and they see somebody, on the street, maybe outside of St. Vincent de Paul, and they think, oh, that'll never be me. But, too many of us have found out that an injury, a medical issue, too often in America, honestly, a medical issue, a pandemic, and all of a sudden you're facing food insecurity, you're facing not being able to pay rent, the loss of your job. Things happen quickly here. And in the same space, there are all these different services that come. There's Project Uplift. There are facilities from the Betty Quan Chin Day Center, like they have the showers there. There are all kinds of folks from the St. Joseph Hospital outreach program. And it's a way to offer information, offer services, et cetera, to people who might not otherwise find it, right? How are you, going out and finding people, whether they're in the Greenbelt or on the street or in a motel, everybody's scattered. But this is really a gathering place. And that was another thing that I spoke to a gentleman who's been coming there for years and years. And one of the things he said, he was talking about how when you're living on the street, you hear all kinds of rumors. And you hear, like, you run into people and they're like, oh, I heard you were dead or something, and it can be a very hard and very lonely life. And for him, he was saying that part of the, respite of coming to St. Vincent is, of course, not worrying about a meal. He knows that 5 days a week, he can come in there and eat. And on the other days, he can stop at the mission. He's not going to starve. He doesn't have to steal for food. He doesn't have to, do anything extreme. But at the same time, it's also a time to sit with other people who are in the same boat with you, other people who are part of your community, and to check in on each other and to see each other and to not feel alone. And also to be somewhere where, as he put it, they treat you like a person. That was really key. When I was talking to all of the people who volunteer there, they all talked about how, it means a lot to just give someone a kind word, to say hello. Not everybody is thrilled because it's a hard life. If you're in St. Vincent de Paul, it's probably not because everything's going great for you. And they talked about they took a de-escalation course. But interestingly, almost nobody's banned. And when there are behavioral problems and people aren't allowed in the dining room, they will still feed them outside the facility. They'll still bring food out to them. And Mary Lee said something to me. She said, we're not going to not feed somebody just because they're misbehaving or whatever you want to call it. Like, people need to eat. And at one point, this didn't make it into the article, but we were talking and I was like, so, because she was saying, you can actually make a lot more money working at fast food than you can at this dining facility. Like, the people who are here, they want to be here. And I said, so after 20 years of doing this work and of managing this crew and feeding hundreds and thousands of people, why haven't you gone and found, like, you could be running a university dining commons. You could be doing, like, you could be making real money. You could be resting. She needs a double knee replacement, by the way. I was like, you could be managing instead of doing all this lifting, literal lifting. And she said, because what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
And she said that she just really loves to help people. And she said, I just want to help people, good or bad. And I was like, well, thank God.
Yeah.
But, you know, that is really the thing. She does not care she does not care who you are. She does not care what you did or how you live your life. As long as you are okay and doing right by the person next to you in that cafeteria, you're going to get fed. And even if you're not, if you wait outside, you're going to get fed. That's all she cares about. And it's fantastic. It's inspiring.
Truly inspiring. So Jen, unfortunately that's all the time we have now, but I just want to say one of the things that you wrote in the article was that one of the people who you talked to said Mary Price is one beautiful person. She'll take the shirt off her back for you. All these people are love. And so think of St. Vincent de Paul when you are doing your charitable giving around the holidays, because Thanksgiving and Christmas is here. St. Vincent de Paul Dining Facility, Mary Lee Price. I'm sure you guys can go on to North Coast Journal and figure out how to get in touch with them. So thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Again, Linda and Jen, we appreciate you guys in a big way. North Coast Journal is available on newsstands now. Pick one up, stay informed. Also available online 24/7, so you can check them out anytime. Thanks again. We appreciate you guys listening out there, and we look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Take care till then. Bye, everybody.
See you next week.